So, have you been trying to quit fapping, but when you try to do it, you find yourself fapping again? You lack control over your urge and emotions, and sometimes you even make your mind to never fap again. You go without fapping for 2 days and sometimes even 3 days, but you relapse again and again repeatedly. You have tried everything that nofap YouTubers told you, but nothing works. Don't worry, I'm here to help you quit fapping and tell you the biggest mistake I made and majority of people make. Let me tell you this, about 2 years ago I used to fap 3 times a day, but it wasn't like this from the beginning. I guess it started in 2018 or maybe 2019. I used to be an average student. I had normal friends, but as you know, there are some assholes in everybody's life. I can't share that person's name, but let's call him David. That fucker came one day to me and said, I'm sending you this link on WhatsApp, go see it. He told me it was related to some game. I got home and clicked on that link and stumbled upon porn site. I was like, what the hell is this? I clicked off that site, and after some days I was very suspicious and curious about what that was. I clicked on the same link again to watch what was happening, but I didn't fap. I just watched porn for some time. A few days went by like this, and one day I was taking shower normally and scrubbing my body normally. I started scrubbing my penis and I got a premature ejaculation, and suddenly some gooey transparent substance came out of me. I was like, what the hell happened? For 20 seconds straight I was vibrating. The day after all of this happened, the next thing I knew, I was in my room wearing earphones, watching porn and fapping like a jerk. After a few days I did it again and again until I got addicted to it. While I was masturbating regularly, it affected my day-to-day life heavily. Let me tell you what was happening to me. I used to wake up having a headache. Whether I was on social media, my mind was always going towards girl throughout the day. I had very low energy. I used to feel like doing nothing but masturbating because my dopamine receptors crashed very badly and made me depressed. My mind was always foggy. Even when I was in college, I had no focus on anything. After fapping in my room, I used to go sit around with my family feeling ashamed and guilty of what I had done. Hundreds of thousands of times, I made myself promise not to fap again. I even went 2 or 3 days without fapping, but the urge never stopped. It felt like there was a devil in my brain telling me to fap again and again every time. I even tried what nofap YouTubers told me to make a note on not fapping for a 100-day streak. I made a big mistake listening to them. Because when you keep track of the days, it constantly reminds your brain that you haven't fapped for say 10 days. This frequent reminder can actually trigger your brain to think about fapping again. After this backlash, I had to take things in my own hands. So I started noticing some specific patterns in my fapping habits, and this has been a real game changer. I realized that I was mostly fapping around 7 and 8 at the night. By paying attention to these patterns, I began to understand the triggers and routines that were leading me down to this path. So I started observing and writing down these patterns in my personal diary. This allowed me to pinpoint the exact times and situations that made me most vulnerable. I thought following this method would help me stop fapping addiction, and for a short time it did. However, I quickly realized that simply being aware of these patterns wasn't enough. After identifying the patterns, you'll notice you're free during those vulnerable times. So how can you fill up those times? What habits should you start? Here's the thing. I have divided habits into 3 crucial parts: mental, physical, and social. For physical activity, you can go and try some sort of physical activity like boxing, muscle building. But more than this, I would recommend you go out and become more socially active. Go out and try making some new friends. Spend some time with your family. Adopting this method will help you reset and balance your dopamine levels. By engaging in rewarding and productive activities, you'll train your brain to seek out healthier sources of pleasure, unlike fapping and video games. And not only that, these habits will fill your free time but will also help you make some real progress in your self-improvement journey. After applying both of these methods, I started seeing some great progress. I was becoming more focused in my work, getting calmer and stronger day by day, both mentally and physically, and I was becoming confident. I started approaching girls and getting attraction from them. My energy levels were breaking the bars. Overall, I completely got a real life to live. Now here's the most important solution of this entire video. Belief. You are what you believe yourself to be. Have you heard of the rubber band analogy? It fits our situation perfectly. Think of your fapping as a journey from point A to B. Point A is where you are now, feeling stuck, battling urges, and wanting to break free from this habit. Point B is your goal, a state of self control, clarity, and greater self respect. Right now, you're at point A, trying to make your way to point B, but then you see a half naked Insta model, and suddenly you feel all your progress slipping away. This is like using a rubber band to hold everything together. It might work for a short while, but when the pressure builds, it snaps and you are back to square one. I know how it feels. When you lose all your progress, it hurts. It hurts real bad. And it's not just one rubber band you're dealing with. Many of us have 3 or 4 rubber bands. Stress, boredom, sadness, or loneliness. Each of these can stretch us to our breaking point, making it hard to maintain our progress. And the only way to deal with this is to believe and imagine you can go from point A to B. You can become a guy with an aesthetic physique who meditates daily, takes cold showers, and completes a book every week. You can become a man who attracts girls like a magnet, not because you're trying to, but because you can exceed confidence, discipline, and self respect. If you think yourself as a guy who faps 4 times a day, indeed you'll become that guy. You need to think yourself as a guy who is not even addicted to fapping. If you feed this to your mind constantly, you'll change, you'll stop fapping. And that is how I stopped fapping. I hope you learned something from my story and share your fapping stories in the comment section. I'm keen to listen your stories.